Hey everybody, welcome back to another Godzilla battling video, and today I have for you yet another meta deep dive on probably my favorite archetype in the entire game. I've been a really big fan of snipers for a extremely long time. For those of you who have been in the game since the beginning, you'll know that Godzilla Ultima, or Terrestrial / Ultima, was actually our very first character to join the game for global launch. The day this game went live all over the world, Godzilla Ultima came with it. He has since been one of my absolute favorite units to use. He's an underrated heavy hitter, or I say underrated. If you've been playing the game for a while, you know he's really good. A lot of new players don't really see the full potential. And in this meta of really close range units like Burning Godzilla, the Fourth Angel, Mothra Leo, even like Batron Firedan kind of get a little close, Gigan 04, some ranged units are really going to be potent. And you know what the positive thing about ranged units is? Most of the characters in Godzilla Battle Line are classified as long-range units, which means if you have any kind of characters that get a long-range, or give a long-range buff, I should say, like Biollante as a leader, or even Jet Jaguar as a leader, guess what? Who benefits from it? All of these guys, right? That's why this list above me, and the suggested characters, I have like a ton of them. Because so many characters are long-range. It's ridiculous. It's crazy. I'm going to break down this deck, or maybe not this deck, but how to build a sniper deck. The one that I'm using in this game, I am on now like a 15 win streak with it. I'm absolutely crushing people. I'm beating meta decks with it. You know, I don't know my opponent's levels, but I'm seeing some gold names, you know, some gold 4-star names that I attribute that to my Ultimate's pretty high level. He's a 25. He's one of my favorite pieces. I love this deck. Let's break it down. I'm not using exactly, you know, what you see on the screen, but I got a good shell of the deck, and we're going to talk about it. So first things first, let's talk about the leader. I have posted up on here G89 lead, although I believe that Biollante leader is probably a better fit for the deck. Now, why do I have G89 lead instead of Biollante? Biollante is a 4-star leader, and, you know, if you've been playing the game for any substantial amount of time, you know that the 4-star leaders are generally not incredibly well, you know, like, I'm like tripping over my words. The 4-star leaders are not extremely well suited for survivability in the early game, right? Maybe like Kiryu if you can stall out. But generally the move for a lot of newer players and non-spenders is to level up your G89, and he's just all around an amazing leader. I couldn't think of the name. I was going to say unit's leader. Amazing leader. So, put him in. He buffs everything at a 50% damage boost at 5 cost characters, and we have a lot on this list. Super X is 5 cost, okay? Ultima is 5 cost. I have some suggestions in here, right? Most of the 5 cost flyers are long range. Batra is considered long range. Fire Rodan is considered long range. Ultraman is long range. GMK Godzilla is long range. I believe Burning Godzilla is long range. Desgador is long range. Mecha King Ghidorah is long range. Naranga is long range. Space Godzilla is long range. So much potential. This deck encompasses so many characters that Biollante will boost, right? So she's going to give them long range, and I completely forgot that I was talking about the G89 boost, but a lot of the characters that Biollante is going to boost, G89 can also boost. So both of them are really good. I'm using Biollante lead in my video. My Biollante is like 25 or 26 or something like that, so she's really good on London, how you see right now. She'll give everyone a 300%, or 30%, I should say, speed boost in water, which is also phenomenal, okay? And I think they're both really good. I think those are the two best leads you could possibly pick. And just to, you know, reiterate, I have G89 as the featured lead on this deck list because I think he's just the most accessible to use, although I think the optimal lead is Biollante. I think Biollante is the one that you want to use in this deck. G89 is just the easiest to level up. Cool. So now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's talk about the 3 units that I think are required for the deck, and out of these 3, the one that I would maybe the most lenient with. So, Super X. Let's start with Super X. Fantastic unit. Goes down pretty quickly in 2 hits. If your opponent doesn't have something to reach it, like a Mogera, Dimension Tide, or Kiryu, guess what? You are going to just start running through your opponent. Range is the best stat in this game. No other character has range higher than Super X. The big downside is you have to protect it. You can see on the screen here, my opponent tries to cure you the Super X. I drop a Naranga down, stun the cure you, take the aggro. Super X is able to survive and help Naranga beat that cure you. Fantastic. My opponent doesn't have anything on the Fury now to deal with that Super X. As soon as he reaches the within leader range, which is coming up, It's going to be hitting that leader. It's hitting this, not Anguirus, Mega Gearus. Super X is great. Super X has the longest range in the game, and if you can really defend it, you can get a ton of easy, cheap damage out. It's phenomenal. It's really good. It's not seeing too much play as it used to because, well, it's seen a lot of nerfs. Believe it or not, it used to be a 3 cost, and it used to have more damage, more health. It's received a ton of nerfs. It's still really good. No unit snipes better right now than Super X, okay? That's like a must-have for me, is Super X in this deck. A must-have. Ultima, also a must-have. Godzilla Ultima is insane. You think GMK stats are really good? Ultima pretty much has the same stats as GMK, except like triple the range of GMK Godzilla, okay? There's not a lot of AoE in this deck. It's all single target, focused fire from a distance. Okay, and that's what Ultima is for. He sits outside of enemy leader range, and he just hits them like crazy. He's going to be far away from a lot of units like the bomb squad, and if you can get the bomb squad really low, Ultima will shoot them down and blow them up before they even reach him or your push. He is phenomenal. I'm a big, big fan of Ultima. I have been since day one. You can see on the screen, he's incredibly tanky. Phenomenal unit. I love him a lot. The only thing that has range close to Super X, at least at the time of recording, is Ultima. Ultima and Super X are the 2 longest range units in the game. We're going to get an extremely long-ranged character in Evangelion Unit 8 on March 17th of 2023, so that is only that is 2 days from when this video goes live. I wanted to maybe wait to record it for them, but I'm not going to be home when Evangelion launches, or for that weekend, so I wanted to get this video done today. But honorable mention, Eva Unit 8, we don't know her stats, but we do know her range. She'll work in this deck for sure. She could be a little weak, but if she's like a 5 cost, I think she can find a home in this deck for sure. I wanted to talk about her now, get her out of the way. Her range is, I think, better than Super X, if I'm remembering correctly, but she's not in the game yet. But keep her in mind, if you want to run this deck and you get Unit 8 really early, you can throw her in here. I think you'll see success no matter what, okay? Next, we talk about Manila. Manila, I think, is the most replaceable character in this list, and honestly, I wouldn't replace him maybe with any of the characters below. I take that back. Maybe GMK or Ultraman or Space Godzilla, okay? But Manila's good. Manila's like a cheap stun. He used to be the best stun unit in the game. He's had his, his time has come and gone, but Manila has really great range. He has a really long range stun. That's why we like using Manila, okay? I don't really have to explain. He's 2 cost. He's cheap. You can drop him like a Kamacuras, right? But I'm using Kamacuras in the deck that we're playing, not Manila. If you have a high-level Manila like I do, you can run him, still see success with him. He's not as good as he used to be, but he's still probably one of the better sniper units in the game, and he has a stun that's pretty long range. Cool. We talked about that. Let's talk about the characters I think we should swap out. We already talked about Biollante. Ultraman. I'll start with Ultraman first. Phenomenal. There's so many phenomenal long-range units in this game, it's ridiculous. Most of the units in this game are long-ranged. Cool. Ultraman is immune to stuns. Okay? Ultraman is immune to stuns. He has piercing, and he has about the same range as Manila, just his range is a little under Ultima. So he will sit outside of leader range. I think Godzilla Ultima as a leader can hit Ultraman, but he's not going to hit the other Godzilla Ultima. So Ultraman is just within leader range. He used to sit perfectly outside of it, now he's just within it for certain leaders. Phenomenal character. There's not a lot of AoE in the long range, in the deck that I made, so him having piercing is extremely, extremely good for this deck. Same with Des Ghidorah. We'll skip right over to him. Des Ghidorah in this deck will also be a phenomenal input, right? Because he has the piercing, he has the stun, and he does burn. You want to get as much damage as you can done while being as far away as possible, and Ultraman and Des Ghidorah with the piercing are definitely going to help you with that, especially if your opponent's characters are all grouped up together. Going to be great. GMK Godzilla. GMK Godzilla does have AoE. I didn't want to use him in the gameplay footage because, I mean, listen, I'll meta slave to the end of time. I'm not going to hide it, right? But I didn't want to use him for this video just because we've seen so much GMK in the last few days, in the last month, even month plus, that I wanted to just do something fresh. Man, GMK, if you got him at a high enough level, that's your go-to right there. He's long range. He's a fantastic unit. We've done so much talking about him recently. His on-death effect, his on-spawn effect, his range, his stats, him with Ultima is ridiculous. It is so deadly, it's not even funny. The two of them together are basically going to run through everything. And if you need AoE in this and you have a high enough GMK, use him. Fine. Awesome. King Ghidorah, Mecha King Ghidorah, like I said, they're kind of like a mid-range unit right now. Like, they're not really seeing a ton of play, but if you need some AoE in this deck and you have a high-level King Ghidorah / Mecha King Ghidorah, you can put him in here. He'll benefit from Biolante's buff. He'll benefit from GD9's buff. He's not really as long range as I would like for this deck. He's not really a sniper, but he is long range. He does have AoE, which is something that this deck lacks, which is why I think he's a pretty good fit. Naranga. We've talked about Naranga a few times in these videos, but that's because I really do think Naranga is one of the better units in the game, especially after the buff that he received recently. I like Naranga a lot, okay? His stun is great. He's invisible, so he's usually going to get the first hit off in a fight, and he's really good for keeping units alive. I'm using him to keep Super X's alive to take that aggro. I'm using him to keep Ultima, or I guess Terrestris, alive and get that aggro to get the evolution off. He's really a really great defensive unit. He's technically a long-range unit, so he will get the Bylante buff. He works really well in this team. He works especially well with Space Godzilla as well. Now that he has that damage boost, that Space Godzilla is going to crank him up, and he's a phenomenal character in this. I mean, I'm saying phenomenal ridiculous so much. I'm just really hyped for this deck. I really like the sniper archetype. It's like my favorite one in the game, so I'm pretty excited to give this list to you. And I think it really works well. I highly recommend you try it out because I'm countering meta decks like crazy using some snipers because all the meta guys, they have to get so close to attack these days. But if you can keep them at bay and kill them before they even reach you, and before they, if their explosion goes off and your guys aren't even close to it, bro, you're chilling. You're chilling. Who are we on? Kiryu. Oh my god, Kiryu. You can deploy him anywhere, long range, and he has AoE. Kiryu's also a really good unit in this deck. I'm not using him on my team right now. Kiryu is awesome. His on-spawn missiles are great. The fact that you can put him anywhere, you can put him in a push, right? So if you have Ultima and Space Godzilla coming up on one side, and you drop Kiryu on the opposite behind the enemy leader, you're trying to force your opponent to pick where they want to go. The whole, like, you know, play pattern of this deck is your characters are so far out of reach of your opponent that they have to decide where to go to. And on their way to your team, you're going to get a bunch of free damage. Now, if you have a ton of units that are spread out, on both sides of the field, middle, left, right, wherever, in the back, your opponent's really going to have to decide where they want to focus their energy and their resources. But if you can hit them from all angles, from all sides of the map, and they have to just pick a specific area, that you're going to cheese right through them. Ultraman from far away, Super X on the other side, Ultima in the middle, right? Kiryu behind them, keep them distracted with Naranga and the Kamacuras. Force them to attack things that they don't want to attack, and you hit them from a distance. Space Godzilla's crystals, phenomenal. I don't have him on this infographic, but I have him in this deck, and I highly recommend Space Godzilla. He's going to keep a lot of these guys alive, and he's going to have a constant 25% damage boost on the field at all times. Space Godzilla works phenomenal in this deck. I didn't include him in there because I don't know why. I think I just rushed through making it. But honorable mentions is Space Godzilla, 100%. He's a GOAT for sure. Use Space Godzilla. Next, I got two spells, Sunday and Dimension Tide. Now, both of them are really good. Our purpose here really isn't to Dimension Tide people into our units. We are Dimension Tiding units away from our characters. We are trying to put the most distance as possible between the enemy and us. So I'm, you know, Sandaying the enemy, keeping them slowed far away so I can get like an extra hit or two in. I'm Dimension Tiding them away to either keep them away from my pre-evolution Terrestris or keeping them out of Super X range or Ultima range or Ultraman range or whatever. Actually, you can use Dimension Tide with Ultraman, with GMK, with Kiryu, with Ghidorah, with King Ghidorah for some crazy AoE. And even in the gameplay in this video, I use Dimension Tide to pull the enemy closer to my Bylante so I can get them all with the Bylante AoE. So I took a big risk there, and you can't see my health bar, but it is a close match. Okay? But you can use Dimension Tide to great effect. And basically Dimension Tide and Sonder to keep your enemy units away. Cool. So now that I've gassed up this deck like crazy, let's talk about what would really dismantle this deck. And I know that I said that this deck is going to be really good at taking down characters that are going to hit you from up close. And it is. If you can kill these guys before they get close to you, you're going to have a really great time. The main problem with this deck is that there are a lot of really strong characters that can get extremely close, extremely fast. King Caesar, Mothra Leo, okay? even Fire Rodan, I'll count in Batra. And then even some of the heavy hitters like the Fourth Angel or GMK or Burning Godzilla, like these really meta units, Earth even. It takes a lot to bring them down, and if you can't bring them down before they get close to you, odds are you're probably going to lose. Another thing is some of the better ranged units are single target attackers. If they have range at Manila's level or higher, they're going to be a single target attacker, which means that if your opponent has a big swarm on the field, say even Kamakura's swarm, you got to be hitting them from far away because they can really quickly overwhelm a unit. The Kamakuras are really good against Godzilla Ultima because he can only hit them one at a time, and they'll be able to just tank a ton of shots on him. Your biggest counter isn't one specific unit. It's just there are a lot of really good units that have really good stat lines like GMK, and if they get close enough, they can dismantle your entire team, your entire push even. So the object of this deck is to keep them as far away as possible. If you cannot keep your enemy far away, they are going to dismantle you. Gigan 04 will grab aggro from Ultima, from Naranga, from Space Godzilla, from... actually, he won't grab it from Ultraman, because Ultraman's immune to stun. But any ground units, any ground range units, Kiryu even... Gigan 04 is going to grab that aggro. Enemy Narangas are going to grab that aggro. Stun, big deal, right? You want your your characters focused on the enemy's characters. But if they're going to hit you with an Embob base or Naranga or even a Manila, it's really going to start tearing your deck apart, right? Or piece by piece. You have to just be extremely careful of what you're doing with the characters. So that's pretty much all you need to know about the ranged archetype. They're extremely susceptible to close range combat and can easily be dismantled by a lot of meta pieces, but if you keep your enemy away and at a distance, you will totally take them apart piece by piece. It is a super fun deck to use. It is a super fun archetype. We're getting we're getting two brand new sniper units with the 10th Angel and Ava Unit 08. They're both extremely long range, so I'm interested to see how they interact with the rest of the characters in this deck and how they perform in this archetype in general. So, without anything else to say to you guys about this, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you give these guys a spin. Ultima is one of my favorite units. Super X is a great support unit. This is one of my favorite decks ever. Too bad it's not insanely meta, but I think if you guys experiment with this, you guys can make it work. So, thank you all so much for watching, and I will catch you all on the next one. Bye-bye.